Let's talk about consciousness. I mean, what is it? It's the ultimate mystery, right? It's the mystery of you, of me, of how a bunch of cells, just matter, can create the feeling of being alive. In this deep dive, we are going to tackle one of the most profound questions anyone has ever asked. Okay, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with the one thing you know for sure, the one thing you can't possibly deny. Then we'll put a name to the mystery that's kept scientists and philosophers up at night for, well, forever. And from there, oh boy, we're diving into some seriously mind-bending theories, from quantum physics happening inside your brain to the idea that the universe itself is a kind of cosmic antenna. So, before we get into all the wild stuff, let's just ground ourselves in the single most fundamental, the most undeniable fact in the entire universe.
I mean, really think about that for a second. You can doubt the world around you, right? Philosophers have been doing that for thousands of years. You could be in a dream, you could be in the Matrix, who knows? You can even doubt your own body. So, what's left? What can't you doubt?
That's it. It's the movie playing inside your head 24/7. It's the color red, the taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of a sad memory, that little voice in your head that's probably commenting on my voice right now. That is your subjective experience. And this inner world, this subjective experience, that's the whole ballgame. It's the one thing you know exists with 100% certainty. And it's exactly what the philosopher David Chalmers decided to really dig into. And in the process, he gave the mystery a name that has stuck ever since. What Chalmers did was just brilliant. He basically split the massive challenge of understanding consciousness into two completely different kinds of problems. So on one side, you've got what he called the easy problems. Now let's be clear, he's being a bit tongue-in-cheek. These problems are incredibly difficult. They're going to take scientists maybe centuries to figure out completely. But they're easy in the sense that we know how to solve them. We have a method, map the brain's circuits, figure out how it processes information, and connect that to behavior. But the hard problem, that's a whole different beast. It's not a how question, it's a why question. Why is all that electrical and chemical processing in our brains accompanied by an inner feeling? Why does it feel like something to see the color red? That feeling, that raw, private experience of redness, is what philosophers call qualia, and that is the mystery we just can't seem to crack. The philosopher Thomas Nagel just nailed this back in 1974. He said we could learn everything there is to know about the physics of a bat's sonar, how its brain processes the echoes, everything. But we would still have no idea what it actually feels like to be a bat, to see the world through sound. That gap, that is the hard problem. And this really gets to the heart of the issue. Right now, neuroscientists are busy searching for what they call the neural correlates of consciousness. They're trying to find the exact brain activity that lights up every single time you have a particular experience. But here's the catch. Even if they find it, even if they can point to a specific set of neurons and say, yep, those fire every time you see the color red, it still doesn't answer the big question. Why? Why does that physical process create the experience of redness? Finding a perfect correlation isn't the same thing as finding an explanation. Okay, so if the standard model of neurons just firing like tiny switches in a computer falls short, where else can we look? Well, some really brilliant and pretty controversial scientists think the answer is hidden deeper inside the brain's machinery, way deeper. We're talking about the quantum level. And this brings us to one of the most ambitious and, well, wild theories out there. It's called orchestrated objective reduction, or for short, Orch-OR. This was developed by the legendary physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. And what they propose is that our neurons aren't just simple on-off switches. Inside them are these tiny structures called microtubules. And they think these act like tiny quantum computers, performing these incredibly fast quantum vibrations that actually generate moments of conscious experience. Now, as you can imagine, when this theory first came out, the scientific community basically said, no way. The biggest objection was that the brain is just too, well, warm, wet, and noisy. Quantum effects are famously fragile. They usually need temperatures near absolute zero and complete isolation to survive. The chaotic environment of the brain just seems like the last place you'd expect to find them. But, and this is a huge but, the story isn't over. In recent years, we've discovered that nature actually uses quantum tricks all the time in warm, wet places. Photosynthesis in plants, for example, is a quantum process.
So is the navigation system in a bird's brain. And get this, scientists have now found quantum vibrations in microtubules at body temperature. Plus, in aesthetics, the very things that switch consciousness off seem to work by dampening these exact vibrations. So the case is definitely far from closed. Okay, so that's the search inside the machine. But what if we're all looking in the wrong place? All those theories assume that the brain creates consciousness. What if that's the fundamental mistake? What if the brain doesn't create consciousness? What if it just receives it? This leads us to a really, really old idea that's making a serious comeback. It's called panpsychism. And it's the view that consciousness isn't some special thing that only happens in brains. Instead, it's a fundamental feature of reality itself, that maybe even a little quark has some tiny, primitive spark of experience. But right away, this idea hits a massive roadblock. It's called the combination problem. Okay, so if every little particle has a bit of consciousness, how do all those zillions of tiny minds combine to form the one single unified consciousness that is you? Why isn't it just a chaotic mess of tiny separate experiences? This is where cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman comes in. He has a theory that starts with a truly startling idea he got from studying evolutionary game theory. So Hoffman ran all these mathematical simulations of evolution, and he found something profound. Organisms that perceive reality exactly as it is are always, and I mean always, outcompeted and driven to extinction by organisms that see a much simpler version. His conclusion? Our senses have not evolved to show us the truth. They've evolved to give us a simple user interface that helps us survive. As he puts it, fitness beats truth. Every single time. The best way to get your head around this is his desktop metaphor. Think about the file icon on your computer screen. It might be blue and rectangular, right? But the actual file in the computer is just a bunch of voltages and magnetic fields. It's nothing like the icon. The icon is useful. It hides all the crazy complexity and lets you do what you need to do. Hoffman argues that the physical world we see, chairs, tables, space, time, is our species desktop. It's a useful interface, but it doesn't resemble the reality it represents. So what is the underlying reality behind the interface? Well, for Hoffman, it's a vast, timeless network of conscious agents. In his view, consciousness isn't some weird fluke that happens to be in the universe. It's the other way around. The physical universe is an experience that happens to be in consciousness. The world you see is a simplified representation, a kind of VR headset that emerges from a much more fundamental, conscious reality. Now, there was this Mexican neuroscientist working decades ago who came up with a theory that kind of uniquely bridges these internal and external ideas. He proposed the brain isn't a computer, and it's not a headset, it's more like a cosmic bridge or an antenna. Dr. Jacobo Grinberg's story is a whole mystery in itself. He vanished without a trace in 1994. But he left behind this incredibly audacious theory he called teoria sintergeria, or syntropic theory. So here's the best way to picture it. Think of a projector and a screen. Grinberg proposed that there's this fundamental energy grid, he called it the lattice, that fills all of space and contains all the information in the universe, past, present, and future. It's like an infinite screen that contains every possible image. Your brain's combined electrical activity creates what he called a neuronal field, and that field acts like a projector. It interacts with the lattice, and it selects one of those infinite patterns, making it visible to you as your perceived reality. So, according to Grinberg, our normal everyday state is one of low syntergia. Our neuronal field is creating a big distortion in the lattice, and we perceive that distortion as a world of solid, separate things happening in space and time. But in states of high syntergia, which he thought could be reached through things like deep meditation, our neuronal field becomes more orderly, it creates less distortion, and we can perceive the underlying unity and information of the universe more directly. Wow. Okay, so after that trip through quantum mechanics, simulated realities, and universal fields, what have we actually learned? I mean, where does all this leave us? Well, we don't have one single answer, not even close. What we have is this incredible landscape of breathtaking competing ideas, and each one completely reframes what it means to be human. Is your brain a quantum computer building reality from the ground up? Is it a VR headset, just an interface letting you interact with a deeper reality? Or is it a cosmic antenna tuning into a universal broadcast to construct the world you experience every day? The bottom line is, while we have all these incredible theories from some of the brightest minds on the planet, the case is still wide open. The hard problem of consciousness is, without a doubt, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries we've ever faced. And that leaves us with one final kind of dizzying question to think about. Whether consciousness is born from tiny quantum vibrations deep inside you, or if it's the fundamental fabric of reality itself. The implication is just profound. It forces you to ask a very strange question. What part of the universe, exactly, is looking out through your eyes at this very moment?